In April 2025, as the US-China tariff war broke out, the United States imposed a 145% tariff on most Chinese goods, causing wailing in China's foreign trade industry. At the same time, a large number of advertisements about origin washing suddenly emerged on Chinese social platforms such as Douyin and Xiaohongshu, claiming that they can provide small and medium-sized enterprises in mainland China engaged in export business with the service of shipping products to Southeast Asian countries, changing labels and certificates there, thus disguising them as products from third countries, and then selling them to the US to avoid paying high tariffs to US customs. Our professional re-export trade solutions can help you solve anti-dumping problems. We first ship the goods to third countries such as Malaysia and Thailand and then export them to the United States through professional transshipment operations. On April 7th, a Douyin account called Jingwei Consignment and Logistics for Re-Export Trade posted a video saying, "Many foreign trade companies are planning to re-export trade. This is the trend of the industry. How do reliable re-export freight forwarders operate re-export trade?" The account claimed, Jingwei Logistics has abundant transshipment resources in major transshipment ports and can issue authentic, effective, and reliable documents. Through Jingwei Logistics' professional transshipment operations, the problem of anti-dumping trade barriers can be effectively solved. On May 4th, 2025, the Financial Times reported that on social media platforms such as Xiaohongshu, an account called Ruby Third Country Transshipment posted an advertisement that read, "The United States imposes tariffs on Chinese goods, then transit through Malaysia and transform them into Southeast Asian goods." The ad claimed it could help Chinese wooden floors and tableware be shipped to Malaysia and guaranteed easy customs clearance. These suddenly popular advertisements are not groundless. Salesmen from two logistics companies confirmed to the Financial Times that they could ship goods from mainland China to Port Klang in Malaysia, transport them to local containers, and then change the labels and packaging of the goods. The logistics company has cooperative relationships with local factories in Malaysia and can assist in issuing new certificates of origin. However, they also recognize the risks associated with doing so. One salesperson said, "The United States must know about these operations. We can't go too far, so we control the number of orders we accept." A salesperson named O from Baitai Lighting, an exporter in Zhongshan City, Guangdong Province, also admitted to the Financial Times that because the US tariffs on China are too high, some companies will first sell their goods to neighboring countries and then resell them to the US through these countries, so that the tariffs will be lowered. However, under US trade law, goods must undergo a substantial transformation in a country such as processing or manufacturing that significantly increases their value before they can be considered to originate from that country and be subject to its tariff treatment. After numerous advertisements on Xiaohongshu, Douyin, and other platforms openly claimed that goods could be shipped to Malaysia to change origin, attracting outside attention, Malaysia responded immediately. On May 5th, the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry of Malaysia announced that starting from May 6th, it will become the only institution in Malaysia to issue non-preferential certificates of origin (NPCO) for exports to the US and will stop authorizing local chambers of commerce, associations, and other media-appointed institutions to issue such certificates. It's reported that NPCO is a document used to help identify the origin of international goods, thereby meeting the customs or trade requirements of the country to which the product is shipped. On May 5th, a blogger named Malaysian Ge posted a video mentioning the news that the Malaysian government announced the new regulations. He said, "If you want to go to the United States through Malaysia, the chances become slim. I used to say that going to the United States through Malaysia was a gamble, but there was still a chance to take a risk. Now, the gamble windows are being closed one by one." On May 7th, a Chinese blogger posted a video saying, On May 5th, after Malaysia began to regulate the certificates of origin, a butterfly effect appeared in the market. Many goods that were transferred through Malaysia can no longer be moved. Today, a friend even complained that the goods had already arrived at Port Klang and were ready to be transferred to a container. Still, the freight forwarder abandoned the order due to an issue with the certificate of origin. The shipper is now in a dilemma. I have said before that not all products can be re-exported in the true sense of the word. The certificate of origin issued by the trading company is unreliable and cannot be used to trace the origin. Now, Malaysia is not the only country taking action. Some countries neighboring China have recently discovered that the number of goods coming from China has increased abnormally. According to the Wall Street Journal on May 5th, Robin Brooks of the Brookings Institution mentioned that Chinese customs data show that since the beginning of 2025, Vietnam and Thailand's imports from China have increased by more than 50%, and most analysts believe that these goods will eventually be shipped to the US. On May 6, a Taiwanese businessman told Radio Free Asia that the United States granted a 90-day exemption period to many Southeast Asian countries and imposed a 10% tariff on them. As a result, many Chinese merchants transshipped goods to third countries and sold them through these countries. The Taiwanese businessman revealed, the countries with land routes to China are mainly Vietnam and Laos. Most of them use smuggling methods to try to enter Vietnam, and then Vietnam tries to collude with the customs to issue a certificate of origin. Generally, the labels are affixed in China. For example, when the goods arrive in Vietnam, they are affixed with Made in Vietnam, and when they arrive in Laos, they are affixed with Made in Laos. And the local certificate of origin is given, and the 10% tariff is applied. Many Malaysian importers also smuggle goods from mainland China and go on through black market channels on the sly. However, these governments are now concerned that their countries may provide transit points for Chinese goods to alter their origin, which could anger the US. They have taken countermeasures one after another. Some countries have publicly announced that they will strictly regulate import and export trade to prevent trade fraud. In April 2025, the Vietnamese Ministry of Industry and Commerce publicly called on domestic trade associations, exporters, and manufacturers to strengthen inspections of the origin of raw materials and inputs to prevent the issuance of forged certificates of origin. On May 3rd, Chinese blogger Industry and Finance said in a video, Vietnam has taken drastic measures. We need to find an alternative approach to managing the re-export trade model in Southeast Asia. A few days ago, the Vietnamese government announced a new regulation that implements the most stringent origin supervision measures in history for the trade of Chinese goods re-exported to the United States through Vietnam. Each move is very tough. For example, a tracking and supervision system called penetration enables the import and export of products in the supply chain. Simply put, even if it's a screw imported from our country, assembled into a mobile phone in Vietnam, and exported to the US, the system will automatically mark the entire supply chain and synchronize the data to the US customs system. After this new regulation is implemented, the model of shipping parts to Vietnam for final assembly and then exporting them to the US will no longer be feasible. Don't think about operations like one-day tours, changing packaging, or origin washing. In fact, the most amazing thing is more than that. The new regulations require that the local value-added ratio be increased from the original 30% to at least 40%. Some industries such as electronics and textiles even need a rate of more than 50%. How do you understand it? For example, if your clothing company ships fabrics to Vietnam to be processed into garments, and the cost of labor and accessories is less than 40% of the value of the goods, even if you print a Made in Vietnam label, it will be judged by the system as fake Vietnam made. The new regulations also require companies to prove their innocence. All types of information, including purchase invoices, production line videos, and employee social security records, must be retained for at least 3 years. Once randomly inspected, the company must submit all the evidence chain materials within 48 hours. The blogger stated that the Vietnamese government has also partnered with US Customs to conduct key inspections on 15 categories of high-risk goods, including solar panels, lithium batteries, and furniture. If the origin of these goods is falsified, they will be fined more than 50% of the value or even have the goods confiscated. According to a survey by the Congressional Research Service (CRS) and Nikkei Asia, the Chinese export product categories with the highest risk of origin washing in recent years include steel, aluminum, extrusions, furniture, electronic components, especially motherboards and connectors, and tires and auto parts. As the US government continues to increase tariffs on the Chinese Communist Party (CCP), some companies are considering relocating their industrial operations overseas. At the end of April 2025, Mr. Cao, a Chinese entrepreneur who manufactures ski products, posted a video stating that American customers had requested that he relocate his factory overseas. He has chosen to make preparations in Vietnam because the leaders of the Vietnamese government have negotiated with the US and are willing to implement zero tariffs on American goods. I just went to Fujian before this business trip. We just discussed the Vietnam Strategic Agreement, which was concluded on April 1st. The tariff policy was announced on April 2nd. The US imposed a 46% tariff on Vietnam. How do you respond to Vietnam's increase in tariffs? This morning, our foreign trade staff communicated with our American guests, and they felt the plan to move to Vietnam must go ahead. Vietnam is more flexible. Trump also said that tariffs can be adjusted at any time. This doesn't mean they must be executed. They can be adjusted. Therefore, the Vietnamese leaders promptly visited the US and agreed to impose zero tariffs on all imported goods. We can negotiate with the United States. I think they must have a way to address the issue and lower the tariffs. So our American guests still ask us to go abroad. Going to Vietnam? Yes, we have completed the proofing in Vietnam and are now undergoing a factory audit. Only after the audit can we start development and mass production. If we have a factory in Vietnam, several major brands will transfer their orders to us. Additionally, all ski products are available in the United States, including major brands such as K2, CD2, and Baoans. These big brands are all from the United States, and you can't avoid them. It was not until April 2025 that CCP leader Xi Jinping visited Vietnam, Malaysia, and Cambodia with a firm intention to win over these three countries and confront the US jointly. However, as soon as Xi Jinping left, these three countries publicly expressed their attitudes towards the US. From the above, we can see that Malaysia and Vietnam have taken strict precautions against the CCP's attempts to alter their origins. The Cambodian government followed suit and issued new measures to strengthen the enforcement of certificates of origin, stipulating that designated goods exported to the US must undergo on-site inspections to prevent violations, such as origin washing. It's reported that this new measure will take effect officially on May 12th. It seems that Xi Jinping's charm offensive in Southeast Asia has backfired. As the US-China trade war escalated, many foreign trade companies lost significant orders from the United States. The CCP government has again proposed misguided ideas, claiming that foreign trade companies can save themselves by converting exports to domestic sales. On April 10th, He Yong-chun, spokesperson for the Ministry of Commerce of the CCP, stated that the Ministry of Commerce of the CCP has organized a symposium with relevant business associations, supermarkets, and distribution companies to help foreign trade companies expand their so-called domestic sales channels. Online platforms such as China Taobao, Meituan, and Haize Online also provide companies with cloud engines for export to domestic sales at the request of the Chinese Communist Party authorities. During the May Day holiday, many shopping malls in Shanghai hosted exhibitions showcasing export commodities or designated special areas for foreign trade products, resulting in some foreign trade commodities initially intended for export being sold at a 90% discount. However, many foreign trade business owners are not optimistic about switching to the domestic market. On May 6, the foreign trade blogger Lao Fan's American Diary pointed out in a video that the concept of export to domestic sales is flawed. I didn't want to talk about such stupid things as export to domestic sales, but today I really have to say it because I asked my cousin who works for Taobao how their export to domestic sales were going, and he said that he didn't participate in this activity at all, because if you want to participate in this activity, you have to make a big deal, and you can't participate in this activity without losing money. I was furious after hearing this. How can this be called assistance? It's just a trick of exploiting these poor factories while gaining a reputation as a good person doing good deeds. On May 2nd, a mainland Chinese blogger posted a video saying, "Foreign trade companies want to switch from exports to domestic sales. Please wake up, it's simply not practical. Do you think it's possible to launch a dimensionally reduction attack when foreign trade products are returned to China? First, the price war in the domestic market has already pushed profits to the lowest level, so where is the profit space for foreign trade products? The second point is that there is a mismatch in demand. The outdoor products such as sports and surfing sold to foreigners are unavailable to domestic farmers. They spend their free time sleeping and have no use for these things. Only two viable options exist: relocate the factory or open new markets." Netizens said, "The logic of exporting to domestic sales is unreasonable." Some people pointed out the reason. The main reason is that there is no money in the pocket. It seems that the CCP has been hit with a double whammy. Not only has its attempt to circumvent US tariffs by origin washing with Southeast Asian countries failed, but even its attempt to convert exports into domestic sales has been rebuffed by foreign trade practitioners. This indicates that the CCP has exhausted its options. That's all for today. If you enjoy our content, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with a friend. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.